Arthur Black. Welcome to Weird Homes, a show that looks at the most unusual and bizarre homes in North America. When you look at this bed, I think it's safe to say it's one of a kind. Most of the stuff in here is. That's what you get when creative people turn their attention to their own private spaces. Today, we'll meet a royal punster by the name of Howard Solomon. Solomon's castle is built in the middle of the Florida Everglades. Comes complete with a drawbridge and a pirate ship. Then there's Grandma Prisbrey's bottle village. Grandma didn't start work on her home until she was 60 years old. 90,000 bottles later, it is officially a state treasure. Let's take a look. A poor old soul scavenging at the dump? Don't feel sorry for Tressa Prisbrey. Bottles were her passion, and she didn't collect them for the deposit. She used them to build a home that more resembled an entire village. No less impressive is the humble home of Howard Solomon.
Welcome to my castle.
Did I say humble? I mean huge. I mean nothing quite like it on the face of the earth. Not far south of Tampa, Florida, you'll find the home of Howard Solomon. Set deep in the mangrove swamps, Howard's place feels like something out of a tropical fairy tale, even before you get there. When Howard tells people his home is his castle, he's not joking. His conscience is as clean and shiny as the walls of his medieval masterpiece. Is this place silver-plated? Close. It's aluminum. Thousands of offset printing plates discarded by a local weekly newspaper.
This is the bell tower, was the last addition to the castle. It has 3 levels of storage space, staircase inside, and cast iron bells up on the top. And that's the balcony where I stand and speak to all my subjects on any subject.
You must have hired a medieval architect to come up with this.
No, you just build a tower here, a turret there. Before you know it, you got a castle.
Sounds simple, but Howard's dream got off to a soggy start.
Well, when I found out that I bought a swamp, I figured I'd better build something very tall, and palaces were too expensive to furnish. I bought it from a local real estate man who waited until there was a long dry spell before he sold it to me. When it started to rain, then I told him, I says, I want you to sell this for me. He said, how much do you want? I said, right now I'll take about 3 cents a gallon.
All joking aside, Howard used to be a boat builder, which explains the Spanish galleon. The gator's no joke either. Boat building is just one of 25 trades Howard's picked up in his ramble through life, and he needs to draw on all of them to keep his castle looking kingly. Howard's secret? He's a master at recycling other people's junk, turning it into everything from castle walls to works of art.
I got started doing that as a small child during the Depression. We didn't have any money for toys, and we had to create our own toys out of empty food cans or whatever we could find.
Now people pay admission to see Howard's handiwork, and he's on his 26th career, tour guide.
This is called the first flower child. That's a Volkswagen cylinder head. Yeah, his rich uncle was made from a BMW. This is my equal rights sculpting. It's called busting out. She has the keys and the shackles are open, and she's stepping from a jail cell to represent freedom. This is a gas tank from a motor scooter. The rear end cover from an international truck. The roller chain is called a permanent. Well, the best thing about living in this place is I get plenty of company. The worst thing about living in this place is I get too much company. Do you know anything about music? Do you know how to tune a fish can? You can't tune a fish. You can tune a piano, but you can't tune a fish.
My father was great. He was always making toys, and of course sometimes he took some toys too to put into a sculpting, but usually it was with permission. You just had to keep a real close eye on your roller skates because he liked those. They worked well in sculptings.
Okay, well, that's Eddie Peabody, the banjo player, and he's playing heavy metal. And all the cameras are there because that's a picture window. We also have a dungeon where we keep the babysitter. We have 5 children and 3 grandchildren, so we have a live-in babysitter. Whenever the children misbehave, we say, "You're going to the babysitter," and they straighten right out. And this is the dungeon. The babysitter's name is Gretchen, and she was a vegetarian who ate too many green things. Oh, look at it. There's OJ's other glove. She had 4 children named Mill and Dew and Dank and Damp. And I made a box without any corners. I thought I invented something. My father said, "It's called a bowl, dummy." So I call it a bowl dummy. This is just a plain wall.
It's plain to see that Howard won't run out of puns anytime soon, but he's dead serious about his love of art. When Howard finally gets the Cali,
One day my youngest son said to me, "Why don't we get a regular house like normal people?" I said, "Why don't you find some normal parents?" The property's 70 acres. And then there's some pasture. There's some future. If we don't see in the pasture, we'll see in the future.
a visit to Solomon's Castle is a time warp, all right, and the illusion of a medieval experience is pretty much assured, since Howard made certain that he started with the castle building basics.
This is one of the 3 requirements for a castle: the drawbridge, the moat, and the dungeon.
The Solomon Galleon may not sail far, but it's still a working vessel. It's the Boat on the Moat, a restaurant managed by Elaine and her husband, Dean.
The kids at school all thought that it was real strange, you know, what was going on out here, and they called and said, your dad's a junk man. But it's funny because now they'll all come out and they'll have their Christmas parties here, or their bridal showers, things like that. So it's all kind of changed, and they realize that he's relatively harmless and just an intelligently funny man.
Howard definitely has his life on course. Not surprising, he had a mentor, a fellow by the same name.
My hero was King Solomon, you know. He had 1,000 wives, and I'm trying to catch up.
I'm queen number 5, but I've been with him longer than 1, 2, 3, and 4 combined. But we are looking for a number 6 because number 5's getting tired.
Funny, I don't believe a word Peggy says either. I'll bet they stay up nights cooking up tall tales.
I come from a long line of castle builders, actually, but we hadn't had a contract in about 2 centuries. So I thought I would build one on speculation. It turned out that we were 75 years ahead of schedule and 10,000 doubloons under budget.
Best thing about being a comic king of the castle? Nobody dares give you the hook.
Hello, all you people of Hardy County. Do you know we have lots of culture here? Unfortunately, it's agriculture. Ah, there's one of my subjects. She can speak on any subject.
Okay, Peggy, on the subject of Howard Solomon.
How weird, how weird. Really weird.
I could let down my hair if I had any.
Stop it, Your Majesty! My ribs!
Go forth and multiply. We have more cows here than we do.
Love to stay and laugh, Your Majesty, but I'm late for... I gotta go fight a crusade, and I'm late. See you next time. Visit the city of Simi Valley, California, and you're sure to hear about the amazing home of Grandma Tressa Prisbrey, or rather, what's left of it. The Northridge earthquake of 1994 hit hard around here, and as you might expect, buildings made of bottles aren't exactly quake-proof. If Grandma Prisbrey had seen the damage, it would have broken her heart. Fortunately, she was spared the anguish. She'd already passed on. But no mere earthquake is ever going to destroy the memory of this remarkable woman and the story of her bottle village. Grandma Prisbrey impressed a lot of people. No one more than Daniel Paul, a folk art field scholar. Since the quake, Daniel's devoted much of his life to picking up the pieces.
And walking around and being near this site, I feel like in certain ways, even though I never met her physically, that, you know, perhaps you really can get to know people by what they make and by the items that their own hands have touched and have manipulated and have made. Part of me feels a certain degree of a little touch of melancholia just seeing it, you know, in the state it's in, and you know, walking around and seeing it after the quake is not necessarily easy, you know, because it's just, it's something I'm sure that would have really affected her very much.
Tressa Prisbrey was in her 60s when she cemented her first bottle into place. 25 years later, elaborate pathways connected 15 different structures. Grandma Prisbrey was so proud of this achievement that caretaker Janice Wilson thinks she might never have really left.
There's been many people who have come onto the property that sense that there's other beings here on the property. Grandma Prisbrey's been heard singing here. She said on her deathbed that she was going to be returning to her bottle village, which, of course, you know, that's not unusual that someone would say that.
Your garter, just an inch above your knee.
But when you hear humming, it's something that has been attributed to Grandma Prisbrey.
The hair on yours is turned to silver. The hair on mine is turned to gold. Put the two of them together. Silver threads among the gold. You can't print that song.
That's the indomitable Grandma Prisbrey. But outside of her bottle village, she didn't have much to sing about. Married off at 15 to a man of 52. Had 7 children eventually, and buried 6 of them. Some think it was the bottles that kept her sane.
She went to the dump every day, in fact, in her Studebaker truck for a period of years to find these bottles, to fish them out of the dump. All she really paid for at Bottle Village was cement and beans. She did not necessarily pay for any of these bottles. Her husband paid for a few of them because he drank a lot.
99 bottles of beer on the wall takes on a whole new meaning at Grandma's house. They were meant to shame her hard-drinking man. That's one bad habit he couldn't hide in the closet.
The way that we find out the dates of these structures is really simple. On a lot of the bases of different bottles, there will be dates on them, not necessarily on all of them, but quite a few. And basically what you do is you just look at the bottles. And so here, at the base of this bottle, we have a 55 over there, 1956. So you go by the latest date. So if there's nothing after 1956, you just assume that that was the year the structure was made. There's a 1955 right there.
Not just beer bottles, bottles of every description.
Obviously, that was some sort of medication. And, you know, she found what she found. There was no need to empty what was inside there. So she just slapped it in there as it was.
The bottle structures go on and on, kind of like Grandma Prisbrey herself. If you close your eyes, you can almost see her working in the sun, trowel in one hand, patting a bottle into place with the other. But don't close your eyes, open them, and enjoy this rare archival footage of Grandma Prisbrey.
There was a man come in the other day. He said, "Are you the crazy woman that built this place?" I said, "I guess I am now, no one here."
The only one here when she wasn't conducting tours. And crazy or not, Grandma attracted folks from miles around, eager to see the home she literally found at the dump.
They sold the dump for an airport, and they closed up. So I took my Studebaker. I have a Studebaker pickup. So I went down there the last day, see what I could find, and boy, did I ever have a load. But I was coming down the pike there, and I saw a red light and heard a horn. I knew what that meant. But I didn't stop. I come home. That's resisting an officer, you know. And I said, "Now what have I done?" But he said, "You got a license to carry that stuff?" I said, "No, I haven't." He said, "Your back window's broke." I said, "I know it." He said, "You haven't got no taillight." I said, "I know it." He said, "You haven't got no muffler either." I said, "I know it." Then he went and opened the door where I get in at. He said, "You haven't got no horn either." I said, "I know it." He said, "You haven't got no emergency brake either." I said, "I know it." "And I haven't got no license either. Do you know that?"
5 will get you 10. She didn't even get a ticket.
Light, a car headlight. This is from a cuckoo clock right here. This is almost a reliquary for objects from the 50s and 60s that you won't find anywhere else. It's made out of objects which other people once purchased and possessed and discarded. And so she has a really interesting take on using objects which most people would assume are untouchable.
Nothing much was untouchable for Grandma Prisbrey, and for some who knew and loved her, she still keeps in touch.
I still feel like I'm hearing her direction slightly in my ear. And in the early days, it was very pronounced, because I used to walk around and I would like look at every single thing and I'd say, Grandma, what do you think about this? Grandma, what do you think about that? Should this go over here, Grandma? You know, now I still, sometimes I ask her, you know, for guidance.
By all accounts, Tressa Prisbrey lived hard and loved hard. She probably had a few words of wisdom for those who hung around Bottle Village. And in fact, she still does.
I often just have little conversations with her. So, you know, it's embedded in my mind, whether it's embedded in reality.
Reality? What's that? By most folks' standards, this doll's head shrine is a tad unreal, if not creepy. But it meant something to Grandma Prisbrey, as did every inch of this often baffling Bottle Village. They say that every picture tells a story. Well, so does every bottle building. And the deeper you venture into Grandma's place, you find that those stories don't all have happy endings.
This structure has a really fascinating story. As you can see, the bottom of this structure is all amber beer bottles. But all of a sudden, it goes from being amber beer bottles to just about everything. What happened is this. She had a son who was dying of cancer, and he wanted to be down here as he was dying. So he notified his mom that he was coming down here, and he wanted to stay here, and she built this structure in 3 days for him. So the structure was built in a matter of 3 days for her son who was dying. This shrine over here is made for a daughter who was dying of cancer. She liked roses, so originally there were rose bushes in there. And according to Grandma Prisbrey, the roses died the same day her daughter did.
If she felt sorry for herself, she never showed it. She just kept building.
Now she made another structure, which we'll go into now. I always save this for the last because I think it's so massive and so great. And this structure on my left is the roundhouse. The structure is 23 feet in diameter, and it's 3 feet into the ground. And it's the one structure that really, really survived the quake nicely. She took a stick and drew a circle in the dirt here at one time, at the beginning of one summer. And she told her grandsons to start digging. And they said, why? And she says, I'll tell you when you're done.
Looks better round, don't it? And I made it 2.5 feet in the ground. The lady says, you don't have no business doing that because you had to shovel out all the dirt. That's no job for a woman. Yeah, but I said I wouldn't have to climb, so I had to put the roof on. And she thought that was all right then. See, I done all the framework myself. Even the men tell me they don't know how I done it. I don't know how I done it.
Nobody knows how she done it. And that's what makes Grandma Prisbrey one of a kind. The most inspiring thing about Grandma Prisbrey? She built all this with her own 2 hands.
The roof, she made all that by herself. That was all her hammer and her nails and her hands and her construction on all of that.
I'd like to put up a bottle house just for my pictures that I've got taken in the past few years. I could have a good-sized house full of pictures. Well, can't you find room? No. They grew on here to build a back house, if you don't mind my...
Shouldn't say that.
Oh, that's right. Well, are we on television now? I didn't think so.
Oh. Well, anyway, I suppose we can talk even if...
Well, I've heard worse things than that on television.
But few things you see on television stir the heart like the story of Grandma Tressa Prisbrey. Hey, Grandma, your turn signal doesn't flash. Did you know that? And then there's Howard, the comedy king of Solomon's Castle. Did you know that his serfs get free stand-up comedy, whether they like it or not? Tell us another one, Howard. Hey, look who showed up, straight from the dump. It's the entire water heater family. There's Dieter and Skeeter and Rita and Peter. On Weird Homes, you never know who's gonna drop by. I'm Arthur Black. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll see you next time.